Hi, it's Louisa Dahl. And welcome to the Interactive Minds podcast, where I talk with passionate marketers, innovators, and digital leaders about their specific recipes for success. In today's show, I interview digital strategist Tim Dwyer, talking about his day job and his side hustle. Here's 3 things you're going to learn. 1, how Tim was an accountant who changed careers to embrace digital. 2, how agile methodology can be used to optimize output from digital teams. And 3, what's involved in starting a side hustle outside of hours. Let's get into it. Today I'm here with Tim Dwyer, who is a digital strategist and planner based in Brisbane, and he also happens to be my cousin-in-law. It's so good to have you on the show, Tim. Welcome.
Thanks, Lou. Thanks for having me, and very excited.
Yes. Now, Tim and I know each other fairly well. We spend most Christmas celebrations and other family celebrations together, and it's been really great to see Tim's career over the last number of years. And I've got some really interesting questions that we can delve into today, so I'm looking forward to it. Now, to start off with, you've been in the digital space for around 5 years, but before that you were an analyst at Deloitte. So tell us, how did you go from being a chartered accountant to making the switch to digital?
It's a great question, and one that I get often. So the reason I started at Deloitte was after I finished my accounting degree. I always wanted to do something in business, and I thought accounting is the language of business and would enable me to really understand how businesses work. So I started off in the audit division, and that was really good to understand how money flows through a business, what are the kind of drivers and levers. But after about 2.5 years, I kind of got excited to move to the digital practice, and kind of web and digital tech has been something that I've always been interested in. And so it was really good to be able to make that jump.
Yeah. And look, I'm sure having that finance background behind you has aided, I suppose, from a data perspective and an approach and understanding the business drivers behind digital as well. At what point did you kind of make the decision that accounting wasn't for you? And was that a pretty big decision at the time, or was that kind of the evolution that you were expecting?
Definitely felt like a massive decision, but when I look back, it was absolutely the right move. I think accounting and understanding business is really important in digital. It's a very pervasive thing today in business, and everyone in digital seems to come from this unique background. And I think that diversity of background is really important to drive really good outcomes. So, in the current team, I work with people from marketing, tech, business backgrounds, even some people who've had previous careers, and all that blended experience really enables us to do some great work.
Yeah, you're right. And it's a conversation I actually often have with marketers around understanding the numbers and how they can make sure they're aligning their objectives to the business and things like that. So I think you're completely right, and having that variety within the team makes a really big difference. Has there been anything unexpected that's you've experienced as a result of making the change to work in the digital space?
It's really interesting. Like, I wonder if it's because, growing up and moving forward in your career from someone more junior, or whether it is that change in what I'm working on. But I think the confidence in what I'm doing as I gain more skills, consulting, where I have had the majority of my career, is effectively problem solving through structured processes. So every problem is different, but once you've got that framework and experience behind you, you can really solve any problem, or at least know where to start and be confident that you can find an answer.
Yeah, it's a great background, isn't it? And you left Deloitte then after spending, about 4 years in the digital team?
That's right.
Yeah. And more recently, you've been in financial services as a digital strategy and planning manager. So tell us a little bit about that role.
Yeah. So at Deloitte, in Deloitte Digital, I kind of developed some industry specialization, mainly in financial services and public sector. Mm-hmm. So I think the reason for that is I'm kind of driven to understanding complex problems and trying to make them really simple. So financial services, public sector, some key challenges in those areas. And there's a lot of lot of stuff you need to distill down into a simple thing because not everyone understands how superannuation, insurance, or government works. So I had the opportunity to jump out of consulting and into my current role, so digital strategy and planning. So the team I'm in is quite new. It's only 2.5 years old, which is pretty interesting for a digital team. Previously, it was kind of outsourced to a number of different providers. And I guess as the strategy side of things, it's really looking outside at what's happening in the industry, so specifically superannuation, what's happening outside. So whether it's a competitive driver, if it's a legislative driver, Banking Royal Commission, for example. So what's coming down the pipeline there, but then also internally, what's the maybe changing nature of our customers or consumers? How do we work with other businesses? What are the other components of our ecosystem? And so marrying those two kind of lenses up and looking at then a roadmap for where do we need to be heading to meet the needs of those external, internal pressures.
Yeah, right. Big job.
Very, very big, but very interesting.
What does a typical day look like for you, Tim?
Yeah, so I'm in the strategy team. We've got two people, myself and senior manager. And my senior manager, he's very much an agile practitioner. So at the moment, our key kind of challenge within our business unit is teaching the other teams in the digital business unit how agile works and can be applied to not just software development, but to other business problems. So we've got a couple of squads working on different problems. So like a analytics squad and a optimization squad. So senior manager and I are working on showing those teams how agile works. So today starts with 3 stand-ups. I mean, across 3 squads. Mm-hmm. So really demonstrating how a 2-week sprint will work and how you break down problems into tickets. Once I've done all my stand-ups in the morning, usually it's coffee time, very big coffee culture here. And those coffee chats are really, really important to connect with the different parts of the team. And, you get to have coffee with someone different each day and just talk about the different areas because we are a very, very diverse team of specialists. So what I know about strategy is very different to what our SEO or SEM or analytics people know. So I've learned a lot personally through these catch-ups. And then a lot of my rest of my days around uplifting our data maturity. So as I'm sure everyone who listens to this podcast is drowning in digital data, there's so many points of data, but it's really about understanding what are the key ones that matter for our key business problems and how do I kind of surface that and report that to the people that need to see that in a really easy to understand way so that they can understand the what and then they can interpret that to then understand the why and provide insights back.
Yeah, wow. 2 awesome areas there that I have some questions on. When we're talking about agile, you've explained that you're bringing the team up to speed on how to work that way. How has that transition been, and have there been any kind of elements that are difficult for these different teams to grasp or to work differently?
It's actually been really great to watch people who aren't from a software background or who've never used Agile before to see Agile in practice. And I think they really can see the value of being able to do work in a time box manner and have that gratification of moving tickets through the workflow and to the done column. So it's been really interesting. And I think initially it can be a bit confusing. There's a couple of buzzwords or key terms and the ceremonies that happen on this regular basis. But once you've been through 1 or 2 sprints, you actually see that velocity and that output of work increasing.
Yeah,
so
great.
It's really satisfying to see.
Yeah, wow. And is that something that is going to be rolled out amongst further teams, or is that kind of where it's staying at this stage within the organisation?
It's actually really surprising. I went to our contact centre in my first couple of weeks, and they actually have been using Agile for a while to look at types of failure demand. So what are the calls we're getting that could actually be solved through web content or a different process for a paper form, for example. So there's pockets of the business that are using it, which is really cool to see. And I think we'll definitely be helping other teams to get on board with this approach.
Yeah, fantastic. Excellent. Well, look, I know we could spend all day talking around some other things that you're working on there, but I do want to keep progressing because something I'm keen to talk about in this discussion today is that you and I used to run Startup Grind in Brisbane, which for those of you who don't know is a regular a meetup, I guess you could say, an event where I was interviewing founders of businesses in Brisbane. And we both have a shared interest in entrepreneurship and side hustle, I suppose, as well from that angle. And I know this is something that you were passionate about back then, a couple of years ago, and you still are. What excites you about startups in this space?
Yeah, it's such an interesting area, and I think for me personally, it comes back to this insatiable curiosity I have about our learning, and I'll just get obsessed with certain topics or certain problems and really try and understand them. So for entrepreneurship, it's a really, I guess, clear way of being able to solve, problems or find an opportunity in a niche space. And I think the learnings that came out of Startup Grind and conversations with entrepreneurs that I know in my life has been that they're just normal people that have found this opportunity or problem, and they've just given it a crack and produced some outcome, whether it's a business, an app, a piece of software. It's like very, very interesting how that process has they've gone through that process.
Yeah, definitely. And there's lots of opportunity and exciting areas in this space for sure. Tell us a little bit about what you've been working on more recently. Yes, so as of about just over a month ago, I've recently launched with my co-founder Felicity. It's a direct-to-consumer e-commerce business called Summer Stories, and we are manufacturing a range of 100% natural shower essentials with the Australian botanicals as kind of the sense. Excellent. Now, this is a bit of a move from the financial services industry. How did this come about? So Felicity and I used to work together, and we'd often go to drinks on Friday and whatnot, and talk about these crazy ideas we'd had for businesses or things that we'd seen online, and we just get talking, and after maybe hundreds of ideas that we'd chatted about, we kind of singled down to this potential opportunity space in the market where there's not a large range of 100% natural products with Australian scent. So there was that kind of opportunity, but also you see the branding trends, and Felicity is definitely much more the expert in this space. But you will have noticed there's a lot of millennial pink products in that kind of category, hair care and adjacents in cosmetics. Yep. And there was nothing really that was crazy and standing out. So from a brand perspective, we thought that there was an opportunity there as well. And then thirdly, obviously the trend of eco-friendly products. So it's really interesting when you combine those three things, what outcome is possible. Exciting. Now, I saw a prototype of your products a couple of weeks ago, which looked very cool. I totally agree with what you're saying around the brand and standing out in the market. But tell us, how did this journey start? How long ago was it that you decided to embark down this road, and what's been involved in getting to the stage you're at now, being prototype or potentially beyond that? Yeah, so this is a journey coming up to almost 1 year. I think it was November 2018 that we kind of started having serious chats and discussions about it. And it's funny the way it came out is I have this idea of selling Australian natural products in India. I think that market is going to grow. I was telling this to Felicity, and Felicity's ex-Vayner Media, so Gary Vee's agency in New York, and had a couple of clients in that space, and kind of fusing this together is how we came up with this idea. And so when we started going into anger, it's just amazing to see our two skill sets, which are very different, combining to basically just start. And that's probably the biggest piece of advice that I used to hear at Startup Grind. And it sounds so simple, but it's to just start. Yep. And I don't know why I haven't done that before. Yeah,
so
right.
In terms of how we actually got started, we kind of looked at a little bit of research of what's out there, what's missing, what do we need to do, where do our strengths lie. So for me, that was around obviously the financials and the tech. So are we going to do it on Squarespace or Shopify? What's our price point going to be? How are we going to get funded? That sort of thing.
Yep.
For Suze was definitely around the brand, the value proposition, what is the marketing and the PR side. So kind of blending this together, we kind of just started with our Trello board and started moving stuff across to the done column, and here we are. We're still going.
Fantastic. So implementing an agile approach to this, are you?
Fragile, maybe.
Nice. And so what stage are you at now?
So we've been in the market for 1 month, like officially live. And what this kind of period is basically we were just testing with a very small batch to see some wider feedback. So during the prototype phase, we had a limited amount of samples, which we got lots of people to try as many as we could and kind of tweaked our formulas. But this is kind of like a beta version. But we should be getting our first kind of production batch, like quite a bigger size, dropping in the next week or two. So yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah, definitely. And how are you finding the response so far? What kind of channels are you using to get it out there, and what's your plan, I suppose, to sell this next batch?
Sure. So Felicity has a lot of experience in PR and actually podcast-led kind of marketing, which is very interesting. I think you should interview her maybe next time.
Yeah.
But we've had a couple of PR hits already through different places related to our audience. So some mum blogs, some vegan blogs. So that's been really interesting to see how that's driven traffic. Got a couple of podcasts as well. Felicity has her own, a couple of her friends. So she's appeared on those. And
Great.
we're kind of using, as all podcast advertising is a discount code to try and track that. And we've started to see a couple of orders come in from people we don't recognise, not family and friends. So that's
Excellent.
quite exciting.
Yeah.
The next step is we've kind of been holding off any kind of paid or further marketing for the moment, just because we're still waiting on that first batch of stock. But once that lands, we're going to ramp that up and kind of test our hypotheses around Instagram and Pinterest initially, because our product is very visual, very bright. We're thinking that that's going to be the space to play. And from our social media report we do monthly, you can really see our Instagram and Pinterest audience is very large and has grown a lot compared to some of the other channels. Great.
What have been some of the biggest challenges you've experienced in getting to this stage so far?
Yeah, it's interesting. There's no real rule book or guide that I can pick up and read how to launch your direct-to-consumer hair care brand in 2019. So there's been a lot of stuff that you've just had to teach yourself. And I guess I'm lucky that I've got that curiosity that I'm happy to sit down for hours at night and kind of look into that. So some key challenges have been around what are the regulatory requirements for hair care. It's obviously there's a little bit of risk in the product that someone ingests it or puts it in their eye, like trying to understand that. And because Felicity and I are not from a deep kind of hair care cosmetics background, we've had to kind of upskill in that area.
Yep.
Some of the other challenges have been around allocating our capital. So we've bootstrapped this ourselves. We put in some funding, just each of us, and we've really had to be careful about where we spend our money. So we knew that the runway has, we've only got X number of weeks left, but we know that next batch is going to help us. So just managing those inflows and outflows of the cash.
Yeah. Always a big important one, isn't it? And I imagine you've tried to do as much stuff yourselves as you can as part of this process.
That's right. And that was actually one of the decisions we made, was to work out where we do need some additional help. So we do have a manufacturer we work with who helps us to develop those formulas and to produce our batches. And we also decided to get a design agency to help us with the branding. So we found a designer in Sydney called Badland Studio. who very much aligned to what we wanted to do, and they've had some experience in this area before. So working with them has been really great to develop the brand, whereas everything else has been in-house. So that includes me learning how to update Shopify templates to match the brand guide. So there's been some key decisions there to really make sure that we are doing what we can, and then where we need specialised help to outsource that.
Yeah, definitely. And assumably all this time though, you've been working a full-time role as well. Is that right?
That's right. So my nights are, giving up my Netflixing at night and heading upstairs to the computer, and just getting into that frame of mind where you just keep working, and then suddenly it's 1 a.m. You're like, oh, I better go to bed. So it's really good when you have that passion that it can drive you. And weekends is when Felicity and I catch up, and we have our generally at a cafe. We'll have a chat about what's gone on during the week, any key strategic decisions. But then it's kind of off. Obviously check in each day, but during the week we kind of running with our own stuff, and we check in with each other when we know that we just need to run a decision past each other. Yeah.
And did you have to have a discussion with your employer about starting this up, or how did you approach that angle of it?
Yeah, it's a good question. When Felicity and I started this, we kind of went on the assumption that this is going to be our side hustle, and it's going to be completely to be done outside of 9 to 5, so at night on the weekends. And I had a discussion with my senior manager, and he's actually an entrepreneur himself, so he has a couple of apps for the Atlassian suite, so in the Jira product there.
Nice.
And so he was very supportive, and I think it's just that adult discussion, like, yes, I'm doing this, it's not going to affect my day job, and you kind of just prove that with your outcomes at your 9 to 5.
Yeah, great. And look, I mean, I know a lot of marketers and digital specialists really enjoy having, the side hustle to test their skills and to learn and to, I suppose, continue exploring outside of the industry that they're employed in. Would you have any advice to other people in this space who might be interested in doing a side hustle? Is it something you'd recommend?
Absolutely. It's been amazing from a learning perspective. Just when you're the only one who's driving something, it can really change your passion and your drive to get stuff done. So I guess what I mean by that is, in my day job, I interface with our specialists in terms of SEM, SEO, Google Analytics. So I've got like a basic understanding of this area, but when it's kind of up to me to apply that in my own side hustle, then that knowledge that I've got has increased so much over the past, 10 months since we started. So it's definitely, there's benefits both ways. So I'm bringing our skills and experience into my day job, which I've developed from that outside side hustle.
Yeah, definitely. What's been the hardest thing for you to upskill on or get your head around?
I think it's just being across all the things you need to do. So there's, for example, trademarking. We had two people separately say, make sure you look at your trademarks and get in early. Our designers, they had an experience that they could share with one of their clients that where a trademark didn't get done in time, and there was a bit of effort to kind of fix that after the fact. So trademarking, like, where do you even start with that? Like, lawyers are expensive, but it's just trying to be across like all these little things that could blow up in your face, and trying to get in front of them.
Yeah, definitely. And where do you see this being in another 12 months? What's your kind of ideal next steps and outcomes from here?
We would love to have this as something we can work in full time and build up. So grand visions of that. So whether that's 12 months or not, we'll see.
Yep.
But certainly we got 2 more products in development, which are kind of around like the body wash line. So moving away from the hair care.
Awesome.
And building that out with a further, I think it's 5 or 6 products on the roadmap that we'd like to get launched. So it's going to be a busy 12 months, and balancing that kind of operational funding to keep the business ticking with the research and development side is going to be very interesting.
Excellent. Look forward to following your progress in that space. Now, if someone wants to go and check out these products, where can they go?
Sure. We are summerstories.co.co. And on Instagram, we're summer.stories.studio. So thank you for the plug.
Excellent. No, we'll all be checking it out. Now, tell me, before we wrap up today, I'm really interested in understanding how marketers and digital experts are allocating their time and priorities and ways to work. And we've spoken a little bit today around the agile methodology that you've been using in your current role. How do you personally manage your priorities, whether it be for your day job or for your side hustle?
Yeah, so I love the Atlassian suite of tools. So Atlassian, a great Australian company, and one of their founders was recently announced in the AFR's top 5 powerful tech people in Australia.
Nice.
That's Mike Cannon-Brooks, and he's the guy that's going to build the solar farm in Darwin and export that to Singapore.
Cool.
Anyway, that aside, Atlassian have some great products. So Jira is that workflow management tool that we use at our stand-ups. Confluence is a documentation tool, kind of like a wiki.
Yep.
So use that in my day job, and I also use that outside for my other kind of ideas and in capturing that. For Summer Stories, we're using Trello and Slack. So Slack's our different channels to talk about things, Trello to manage our workflow, and then G Suite for our documents, spreadsheets. So very much cloud-based subscription tools that are just so easy, just hit go and you're up and running.
Yeah, definitely. And what about your inbox and calendar? How are they integral to your day to day, and how many emails are sitting in your inbox right now?
I am not very good at this, so I've got too many inboxes, and I don't know. I need to rein it in, but in my 9 to 5 job, that's obviously an Outlook. And I've got a number of rules for sending stuff to folders. So notifications or email marketing goes into folders automatically, and I can read them when I get to them. And anything in my kind of inbox is stuff that I need to action. So that's kind of how I manage that during the day. And calendar is just my Outlook calendar. But then for Summer Stories, using Gmail, I've started to set up a number of filters and rules to make sure that I'm not going to get overloaded. So with having lots of subscription products, obviously there's a lot of newsletters and notifications that are happening there. So, there's new orders come in, your parcel's been delivered, and then email marketing. So using the filter section of Gmail there, which is I'm discovering is quite powerful.
Yeah, definitely helps to clear that inbox out.
Absolutely, yes. So I think the other thing that I really like to do is periodically, maybe every quarter, every 6 months, is go through and unsubscribe to newsletters that I'm not reading.
Yes.
I think there's a lot of things I've got which I'm keeping just in case I get a 40% discount code or something like that. But really, I've not used it for 6 months, 3 months, then just unsubscribe. It's going to bring me back some time.
Definitely. I've been on a bit of an unsubscribe binge myself at the moment lately. So I think it's something you need to do every now and again, isn't it? Definitely. Well, thank you, Tim, so much for being on the Interactive Minds podcast today. It's been great having you here. If people want to find you, what's the best way for them to get in touch?
I'm on Twitter at Tim Dwyer. I think that's been around since the early days. So I managed to get a normal Twitter handle there. So
nice.
I love Twitter. So feel free to send me a tweet or to, don't.
Probably connect on LinkedIn either as well.
Yes, LinkedIn, I'm there as well. So Tim Dwyer. Perfect.
Thanks again, Tim. It's been great having you on the show.
Thanks, Louisa. Really appreciate it, and all the best. Talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening. If you liked this episode, please remember to subscribe. My recommended action item from today's show is to think about what problem you can solve and come up with ideas for your own side hustle. Don't forget to join me in the Interactive Minds Facebook group, where hundreds of marketers come together to discuss the latest challenges and ideas. You can access today's show notes at interactiveminds.com/podcast. See you next week.